Today we're talking about the Seiko 5 GMT, some of the things that I like, general impressions, and why I'm probably going to be walking out with one. Welcome to Wrist Swap. My name is Harrison. Today we're here at Moyer Fine Jewelers in Carmel, Indiana. They're kind of the darling of watch YouTube. You've seen them all over the place. They're more prone to lending out watches than any other retail that I've known, and they've been very kind to let me come in, take some watches out of the shelf, and kind of talk through them with you guys. Today we're looking at the Seiko 5 GMT line. This is a watch that a lot of people have been excited about, especially recently, and myself included. I've talked about it already on the channel, and their GMT line is something that we've seen before. It looks like the SKX, which most of us have probably owned the SKX before. One of my first watches was the SKX 007, and I really enjoyed it. I also owned an SKX 013, which I gave to my father-in-law when he came to visit a couple weeks ago. And I like them both a lot. They both had similar proportions, and this one has the exact same proportions as a 007, which I'll put on the screen right now. So it's going to be 42 millimeters wide, and it's a proportional size and case shape that we're all pretty familiar with, especially if you've owned one of those before. Then you know kind of how it's going to wear, how it's going to look, and how it's going to feel on the wrist. It's going to hug pretty well despite that 42.5 millimeter case size. It's going to have a bidirectional bezel. It's got Seiko's new Gmt movement, and so it's going to have a few main positions. The first one is just going to be hand wind. When you pull it out, that first main position is going to be the actual GMT function, which I did not actually get a shot of, and I wish I had, but it's pretty snappy and responsive. You roll it one direction to actually change that GMT hand per hour based on the bezel on the outside. You rotate it the other direction to actually change the date function. And that's one of the advantages to a traditional collar GMT. You can actually set it down for several days and then change the date really easily, whereas most true GMTs like my Explorer 2, you have to cycle through all the days for 15 days in order to actually get to the day that you're at now. So it looks like the SKX 007, so for me, it wears like a glove. The bracelet on the SKX 007 was one of the first things that I upgraded, and for whatever reason, I just didn't like how it felt. This one feels different, and I think they came in with solid end links, though I didn't verify, I didn't take them off, but it feels a little bit more substantial, a little bit more wrist presence, I suppose, and so it seems to fit better. I'd be less prone to taking this bracelet off than I was on the other. As for colors, there are three colors. You've got the orange, which has basically a gray and black bezel insert, and I think gilt hands. The blue, which has a blue and black bezel, and then the black, which has a black and gray, although sometimes that gray turns kind of just black. I'm really conservative, so for me, the blue and the black are kind of my speed, but the orange is a really nice, fun, funky touch. I really like that it is an option, although not right for me. The Cyclops was an interesting addition to the dial. It wasn't something I was really expecting when I first heard about this release, and so it was a really interesting addition. I think it balances the dial actually pretty well. I'm usually used to the long Cyclops on the Turtle, and so this I think has a nice, more subtle look, but because it magnifies the date, it better balances the indice on the 9 o'clock. It's really hard to look at a watch for a short period of time and come up with negatives, so I'll try and do my best. The positives by far are wearability and the overall feel that you're used to on the 007. You're coming into a watch, you already have an idea of how it's going to feel, which is kind of one of the biggest parts of a watch, and you already know whether or not you like the design based on the overall aesthetics. So it's nice to add this to the overall SKX line. In terms of negatives, I think the main thing on this is just going to be the overall function and the price tag. It's a little bit higher price than most people are going to expect from SKX. People are used to the Seiko 5 line being around $500 now, at least retail price. I think once these are used and start to come down in price, they're going to be the perfect beater watch, especially for travel and for versatility either in or out of the ocean or swimming pool. It's got downsides in terms of Hardlex crystal and the Hardlex crystal bezel. So I think one of the big things here is just going to be as micro brands start to use the movement, you're going to start to see affordable collar GMT watches in more attainable price ranges from micro brands. Also, I might have preferred a 120 click unidirectional, like a typical diver, than a bidirectional friction bezel. Friction bezels and I don't really mesh because I work in a warehouse, and so it's really easy to hit it and have to keep constantly changing it back. so I prefer more stable bezel. That's just me. All said, if you're looking for a travel GMT watch where you kind of want to wear it out and beat it up and not really worry about it, this, I think, is an upgrade from the SKX 007. I think the beater watch was always a travel watch to me, and this does that in a really great way. So what do you think? Are you guys going to be looking to buy one? Have you already purchased one? If you're in the Indianapolis area, stop into Moyer. They have a huge amount of brands, and obviously they've been kind enough to let me come in here and kind of wear some gloves and show some watches. So if you're in the area, come in, say hi. Bill and his whole team will be happy to see you. Other than that, I'll see you in the next one. Take care.